Alright guys, so this is part 2 of our liquid soap making, and this is the dilution process. I weighed my paste, and I already know what it's going to weigh because I've done this several times with this exact same size batch. So 30 ounces of oils is going to give you approximately 3 pounds of paste. So what I have here, the way I dilute is I dilute 1.5 times the amount of paste. So if you were to do, so I do a 1 to 1.5 ratio. So if you were to do a 1 to 1, then you would put 3 pounds of boiling distilled water in here. But I know through trial and error that I need 1.5 in order to dilute this. So that means I've got 4 pounds and 8 ounces in my little bucket back here, and it's boiling distilled water. You want it to be boiling, it just makes the process go faster. My crock pot is back up on high. Before we add the water, we want to break up this paste a little bit. So I'm just going to take my thing, and this is super hot. My crock pot's still hot. So we just want to break up this paste a little bit, because the smaller your paste, then the easier it is going to be to dilute. And I already tried to break this up a little bit when it was still piping hot, because as the paste cools, it will get harder and harder. So I'm just trying to break some of this up. Smaller pieces are easier to dilute than bigger pieces. So let's try our best to break some of this up. And my crock pot is still a little high, or a little hot here. So we're getting smaller pieces. There we go. Alright, we got smaller pieces now. And you really got to push to get that broke up. Alright, I am going to scrape this back into my crock pot, because we want to dilute all of that. So we did the first part. I showed you how to weigh out your oils, how you do your lye, even though it's very dangerous the way I do it, but that's how you're supposed to. It cuts my stick blending time in by 3/4. And you guys, I mean, I'm an experienced soap maker, so I know how to deal with lye. But if you're not an experienced soap maker, I would not suggest doing that. I just did it because I didn't feel like stick blending for an hour and killing my stick blender while I was at it. Alright, so our paste is broke up. Our crock pot is on high. I have here 4 pounds, 8 ounces of boiling distilled water. And that's going to take it all the way to the top. And this is going to dilute 100% of my paste. I already know how much I need. So, we got the crock pot on high. Our boiling distilled water. Make sure your lid is on good and tight. We don't want water evaporating. So we are going to let this set. Sometimes it takes a couple hours to dilute. About every 45 minutes, I would say, I would come back in and then break up the paste some more. Make sure you've got a good sturdy spatula, or not spatula, but a good sturdy thing. I use a wooden spoon because this paste gets so hard it bends my stainless steel spoon. It's just not strong enough for the paste, but my wooden spoon is. So we're going to let this sit here. We're going to let it dilute. Like I said, come back, break up the pieces, stir it around a little bit, and then once we get completely diluted, we are going to neutralize and thicken at the same time. I already know how much I have to put in here to neutralize and thicken. We tested clear on our phenolphthalein, so we really don't need to neutralize, but my thickening agent neutralizes as well as thickens, so it kind of does two things at once. If we were doing a lye access, you would definitely want to neutralize your soap. And that's what I've done in the past, is a lye access. But I've done this enough to know that I don't really need a lye excess, that 0 on the soap calc is good enough. If you were to do a lye excess, you would never test clear on your phenolphthalein. It will always turn a magenta just because it is a lye excess. But we dilute it, we neutralize it and thicken it. So we will come back and I'll come back and stir it up here in about an hour, and we'll see how much has been diluted, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, stay tuned. So it's been about, I don't know, about an hour or so. So we're going to check on our dilution. Oh yeah, that's diluting really nice. Alright, see that how transparent the paste is? I don't want to get, here, let me see, I got a thing here. See how transparent that is? That means it's definitely done. So we did good on that. Now what you want to do after about an hour, and this is why I put boiling water in here instead of letting the crock pot do it. It makes sure that your paste is broke up. So any big chunks you want to go through with your wooden spoon, and you're going to want to break them up. The smaller the chunks, the easier it is to dilute. So everything I'm getting, there's a big chunk. Let's see if we can't break that up. So the smaller the chunks, the easier it is to dilute. So let's just break that up against the side there. It's looking great. By this rate, we'll be done with it by tonight. And then it's got to cool completely down, but we will get to that when we come to it. That one was a pretty big chunk. Let's see if we can't break it up. There we go. That broke up. And you want to go on the bottom, scrape it on the bottom, make sure there's no soap paste sticking to the bottom of it. Now let me tell you guys, this recipe makes great dish soap. Makes awesome dish soap. We're still going to neutralize it. My neutralizer is my thickener as well. So even though it tested clear on the phenolphthalein, we're going to use, what I'm using neutralizes and thickens the soap. Let me see, I think that's a big old chunk. Let's see if we can break that up. Alright guys, we're looking good. Oop, there you go. Splatter hot water all over yourself, Crystal. So we're looking good. Our chunks are broke up. It's diluting nicely. And I like to go around the sides of my crock pot because soap likes to hide out on the sides there. Now, once you're starting to dilute, if you get a film on top, that usually means you don't have enough water in it. The way I'm diluting, the amount I'm diluting is a dilution rate of 25%. So, if you are trying to get into liquid soap making, you want to make and you want to make sure your lids are nice and tight so you don't have water evaporation. If you are wanting to get into liquid soap making, I suggest that you research this till you cannot research it no more. Read about it, watch videos, order a book. Kathleen Fowler's got a very good book out. You can get her older one for dirt cheap or her newer one. It's the exact same information, just one's older than the other. It's also got recipes in it. Just really research how to make liquid soap, guys. You really need to know what you're doing. And the Sever-B Meadow Advanced Soap Calculator is the best calculator to do your recipes. I love soap calc, don't get me wrong. I use soap calc with everything. I even use soap calc before I use the Sever-B Meadow Advanced Calculator because theirs is in ounces and I formulate my recipes by percentages. Just research it, you guys, and we're doing a 25% dilution rate. That is what I have found works for this recipe and this recipe only. This is our dish soap recipe. Alright guys, so we are going to let it dissolve some more, and then we'll come back in about an hour, and hopefully maybe by then it'll be all diluted. I don't know, we'll see. Alright guys, so stay tuned. Guys, we are back, and we are almost completely melted. So now we are going to neutralize our soap as well as thicken it. I'm going to take the lid off, and I'm going to show you. See, we've only got a couple little chunks. So to neutralize soap and to thicken the soap, we use borax. We use 6 ounces of boiling distilled water. Okay, let's scoot this back so you guys can see what I'm doing here. My distilled water's in here, and it's got to be very hot distilled water or this borax won't melt. But you need 6 ounces of distilled boiling water to 3 ounces of borax. And we are mixing it up, making sure it's good and dissolved. We might have to put it back on the stove to bring the heat up, so I'm going to do that real quick because borax is really hard to dissolve. What, honey? Borax is really hard to dissolve, so I'm just setting it back on the burner for a second. And I got my little whisk, and we're dissolving the borax. And you'll know it's dissolved when the consistency goes from cloudy to clear. To neutralize your soap, you use this is out of this 33% solution. That's what this is making. It's a 33% solution. You use 1.5 tablespoons per pound of paste. So we had 3 pounds of paste. But I know my recipe, and I've made this enough to know that this 33% solution, this 6 ounces, is enough to neutralize my soap, and it's enough to thicken it how I want. So I'm not using 1.5 tablespoons. I'm using the whole 6 ounces. And I know this through trial and error. So I'm using the whole 6 ounce solution in my soap. We're almost clear here. Remember, borax has to be extremely, extremely hot to dissolve. And you want to do it near the end. Your water that's in your crock pot is going to be very, very hot. And you want to put this solution in when you've only got a couple little, see, we've only got a couple little things left to dissolve. And there was a little bit of a skin on top, but don't worry, that'll dissolve. If all of your paste is dissolved, and then you cool it down or whatever, and then there's a skin on top, then that means it needs to be diluted more. But if it forms a skin while there's still paste, then that's fine. Alright, my solution is going clear now. So my borax is good and dissolved. Let me see. Alright, it's good and dissolved. Alright, I'm putting this whole 6 ounce solution into my diluted water. I know that you guys are going to have to do trial and error to see how much you need. You can thicken your soap also with a 20% salt solution. You can also use it. But I know that 6 ounce solution of borax neutralizes my soap and it thickens it to the consistency that I need. So you guys are just going to have to do your math. When you start out to neutralize your soap now, you only need 1.5 tablespoons of that 33% borax solution per pound of paste. So I had 3 pounds of paste, so that means I would use let's see, 3 tablespoons plus 3 half tablespoons, however many that is. because it's a tablespoon and a half per pound of paste. So you would triple that. So you put 1 tablespoon and a half, then another tablespoon and a half, then another tablespoon and a half. That is to neutralize your soap. Now to thicken your soap, you're going to have to let it cool down completely and check the viscosity. That's what it's called, is viscosity. And you would either add, you would either make another 33% borax solution and add it to your soap till you get to the consistency that you want, or you would do a 20% salt solution. And to make a salt solution, you take regular table salt, and it's 0.5 ounces, half an ounce, to 1.5 ounces of boiling water. And then you would make a couple ounces of that, and then you would use a pipette, and you would squirt a couple of these pipettes full into your solution until you got to the thickness that you want. Through trial and error and knowing my recipe, I know that the whole 6-ounce solution of borax not only neutralizes my soap, but it thickens it to the consistency that I need. Alright, the next thing we're going to add is glycerin. Let me get my scale. And you're going to need 1 to 2 ounces of glycerin per pound of paste. I go in the middle. I use 1 ounce, but I use just an extra ounce. So I had 3 pounds of paste. That means I need 3 ounces of glycerin. Well, I'm going to use 4 ounces. Glycerin helps the moisturizing factor, but it also helps thicken your soap as well. So you can use the borax solution in glycerin or the salt solution in glycerin. It's just really preference, actually. But I know that 4 ounces of glycerin and the 6 ounces of the borax solution thickens my soap to the perfect consistency. I just know my recipe. That's why I know my numbers. If you were following my recipe exactly, then yes, this is what you would do. And I'm just trying to get all the glycerin out of this. There's a lot left in the bottom. Glycerin is thick and sticky, so it likes to stick. I try to get as much out as I can with my spatula here. You're not going to be able to get all of it out because it is so thick. Glycerin is your friend in liquid soap, let me tell you. Alright, but that's about all I'm going to be able to get out of there. So now I'm just going to stir it for a second. Now remember, you only go to neutralize and all this when you've barely got in. See how small that is? I don't know if you can see it. That's hot, hot, hot. But you see how small that paste is? That's when you want to start neutralizing it, is when you got small little quarter-sized paste still left in. Or you can wait until all your paste is dissolved to put your borax and your glycerin in. It's really just preference. I just do it when it's got just a little bit left to go. And I can tell that my lid was on good and tight because I've not had any water evaporation. It's still up to the top. And you guys can follow this recipe exactly if you want. That's not going to bother me none. It's just a dish soap recipe. So we're mixing, making sure the borax and the glycerin is good and mixed in. And then we'll come back, and it'll take probably about another hour to dissolve these little bits of paste that are still left in there. So we'll come back and then we'll give it another good stir. Alright guys. So that is how you neutralize with this recipe. This is how you neutralize, thicken, and all that good stuff with this recipe with 30 ounces of oil, which makes 3 pounds of paste, which in turn makes, let's see, 7 pounds of soap. I believe it's 7 pounds. I don't know. I'll have to weigh it once it gets done. Alright guys, so we'll be back. Well, everybody, this is the very last thing. We are all diluted. Good to go. I already took my crock out of the crock pot. I think I got one itty bitty little piece over here that's not diluted. It will dilute. So, we are at the end of the dilution phase. So, all we need to do now is to let it cool down. It's going to take several hours for it to cool down. And we'll come back and we'll show the viscosity of that. So, just to recap what we've done. We've melted our oils. We measured our lye. We put 5 ounces of glycerin into 20 ounces of water. That cut our stick blending time down from 30 minutes to an hour to just 5 minutes. Switch on and off from the stick blender to the spatula. Once you get a really thick trace with the stick blender, switch to the spatula. You're going to go through a separation stage, stick blend it again, but not much. It don't take much to bring it back together. And then turn back to the spatula. You're going to get to a taffy stage. Once you hit the taffy stage, it's going to go from taffy to rock hard soap paste within seconds. So, once you have that, then that's when your cook time starts. My crock pot cooks my soap to a translucent state within 2 hours, but I cook it more 2 hours and 45 minutes. Don't mind my kids, they're home and screaming. This is an all-day process, by the way. You want to learn how to make liquid soap, it's an all-day process. We started this at 7 o'clock in the morning. So, you're going to cook it till you get to a translucent state. If you did a lye access, using the phenolphthalein is not going to help you any because it's going to show there's lye in there. But don't worry, we're going to neutralize it. For this recipe, for 30 ounces of oils, which is the coconut oil, the soybean oil, and the castor oil, we use 6 ounces of 33% solution of borax. That's 3 ounces of borax to 6 ounces of distilled boiling water. That will both neutralize the soap and thicken the soap. I just know that that's how much I need to do both. If you were just neutralizing the soap, you would make the same 33% solution, 3 ounces of borax, 6 ounces of boiling water, and then you would use 1.5 tablespoons per pound of paste. This recipe makes 3 pounds of paste. We are doing a 25% dilution, meaning that we are doing a 1 to 1.5, 1 to 1.5. So that means for 3 pounds of paste, we are putting 4 pounds, 8 ounces of distilled boiling water to dilute it. That's how much it needs to dilute it. That's a perfect consistency to make it the consistency that we wanted, the thickness that we wanted. So that's all up until now. So now it's just the waiting game and letting it cool down. And then once it cools down, guys, we'll come back and I'll show you the viscosity and what it looks like and how thick it is and all that stuff. So I want to thank you for hanging in there with me today. This is probably going to be a 2 to 3 part video. I don't know. I'll have to see how long it is once I go to edit it. So we'll come back when this is all cool and I'll show you the thickness of it, guys. So stay tuned. Right, guys, so we're back and it's the next morning. And this is our finished soap. I colored it yellow. You can't use micas with liquid soap, but you can use food coloring. Here's the viscosity. It's nice and thick. If you notice when I first pull it up off the spatula, how thick it is when it drops. And it's going to get a little bit thicker because I just put some salt solution in it. And it's got to set for a little while with the salt solution. But, it's good. It's really good soap. It works really, really well. I just wanted to come back and let you guys see what it looks like. It could be thicker, and that's why I put the salt solution in it. But the salt solution takes a little while to take effect. But I just wanted to come and show you guys what it looked like so we could finish up this video. I want to thank you for joining me throughout this long process. There's not too many videos out there about liquid soap, so I just thought I would help you guys out. I truly believe you need a good concept of what cold process soap is, and you really need to learn how to make hot process soap before you tackle liquid soap. That is just my opinion. You need to know what things like applesauce stage and separation and trace, and you need to know what those terms mean and what they look like. You can also do this on the stove, but I recommend doing it in a crock pot. A crock pot regulates the temperature a little bit. When you have a pot on the stove, you can get hot spots. The videos I've watched with people doing it on the stove have had a lot of boilovers because you can't regulate the temperature like you can with a crock pot, because this truly does need to be at 160 degrees when you mix it. Alright guys, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask down below. If you want to see future videos, I'm formulating a face wash right now. I'm doing some research about what's the best oils and all that good stuff, and I'll make me a recipe soon, and hopefully I can record it. So if you want to see future videos and future liquid soap videos and cold process and hot process soap videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button for me. And if you like the video, then give me a thumbs up. So anyway guys, until the next video, bye bye.